gruesome sight of a headless woman carrying a bowl of blood, her visage a stark reminder of death and the macabre. An elderly woman with piercing red eyes and a haunting visage, cloaked in green with silver-white hair. A mournful figure in black, her gray hair flowing, her face hidden behind a veil, embodying the quintessential widow. Origins of the Banshee myth. The genesis of the Banshee myth dates back to the 8th century, rooted in the tradition of keeners, women who sang sorrowful elegies at funerals. These keeners, often compensated with alcohol, were viewed with a mix of respect and suspicion, and legends tell of their cursed fate to become banshees as a punishment for their sins. Unlike the grim reapers of other cultures, banshees do not cause death, but signify its near approach, often disappearing into a mist with a sound akin to a bird's wings flapping. Banshees are not universally malevolent. Their nature can be as nuanced as any human's. Some are benevolent spirits, continuing their earthly bonds by mourning alongside grieving families. These banshees appear radiant and sorrowful, their songs imbued with love and concern, audible only to those they herald. Conversely, other banshees are vengeful spirits, their screams not of warning but of spite and celebration over the impending demise of someone they once despised. Other tales depict the banshee as the spirit of a young girl who met a violent end, her ghost a grotesque figure with rotten teeth and blood-red eyes, warning of a similarly brutal fate for her descendants. There are even darker stories of banshees who drive their chosen victims to madness or death through their relentless wailing. Today, the belief in banshees has largely receded into the realm of folklore. Once a potent symbol of the supernatural that could incite fear or reverence, the banshee now more commonly features in horror films as a figure of sheer terror. Yet, some still regard her with a solemn respect, a relic of a time when such spirits were integral to understanding life, death, and the afterlife in Irish culture. As beliefs shift and old legends fade into mere stories, the banshee remains a poignant reminder of Ireland's rich mythological tapestry, captivating those who still listen for her mournful cry in the chill of a misty evening. Whether as a symbol of imminent loss or a spectral relic of ancient traditions, the banshee continues to haunt the cultural imagination, her cries echoing through the annals of Irish folklore. The banshee, with its chilling wails and ghostly appearances, features prominently in Irish folklore, often marking moments of terror and forewarning. Here are 3 of the most famous and unsettling tales of banshee encounters. The Banshee of the O'Brien clan. One of the most harrowing accounts of a banshee is associated with the O'Brien family, an old Irish lineage with deep historical roots. The legend dates back to the early 1700s when a member of the O'Brien clan was set to be married. On the eve of the wedding, as the family rejoiced, a piercing scream shattered the festive atmosphere. Those familiar with the lore knew instantly it was the banshee mourning an imminent death. Ignoring the ominous warning, the festivities continued into the night. However, the celebration turned to horror when the bride, upon retiring to her chamber, was found dead the following morning, her body inexplicably aged as if she had lived a century and a night, her face twisted in a silent scream. It was said that the banshee had been wailing not over a natural death, but over a spiritual disturbance caused by an ancient family curse that the marriage had unwittingly reignited. The screaming banshee of the McCarthys. In the rugged expanse of rural Ireland, the McCarthy family was often spoken about with a mix of respect and fear due to their reported encounters with a particularly violent banshee. The most graphic of these tales occurred in the late 1800s, when a young man of the family, known for his wild and reckless nature, encountered the banshee one foggy evening. Riding home after a night of drinking, he heard a horrific wail that seemed to come from right beside him. Spurring his horse to a gallop, he tried to escape, only to find the banshee appearing repeatedly along the path, her face increasingly grotesque, her eyes glowing red with malice. She was clothed in rags that looked soaked with blood, and her hair flowed wildly around her wraith-like figure. In terror, he raced home, but crashed his horse into a tree, found dead the next morning with an expression of utter terror frozen on his face. The local lore suggested that his death was a direct result of his disrespect for the spiritual forces represented by the Banshee, the wrath of the mourning Banshee. Perhaps the most vividly violent of Banshee stories is linked to the Great Famine in Ireland during the 1840s. During this period, a family in County Limerick reported multiple sightings of a Banshee with a particularly malevolent presence. As the famine worsened, the Banshee's appearances became more frequent. One night, the patriarch of the family heard the dreaded wail outside his window. Upon looking out, he saw the Banshee combing her long, tangled hair with one hand and scratching at the glass with the other, her nails leaving shrieks upon the pane. Her wails seemed to mimic the cries of the dying from hunger and disease all around them. Overwhelmed by fear and unable to bear the psychic torment, the man succumbed to madness, spending the rest of his days whispering of shadows that whispered back. The Banshee is still ingrained in Irish folklore. Over time, she's been attributed with a variety of supernatural powers and abilities that enhance her role as a harbinger of death and a spectral entity. Here's a detailed list of the powers and abilities commonly associated with a Banshee. Forewarning of death. The most fundamental ability of a Banshee is to predict the impending death of a family member. This is typically signified through her mournful wail or keen, which is believed to be heard only by the family or, in some tales, specifically by the person who is about to die. Manifestation. Banshees can appear in various forms. They might manifest as a beautiful young woman, a stately matron, or as an old hag, depending on the story or the lineage they are associated with. This ability to change appearances is believed to reflect the nature of the death or the emotional state of the spirit. Invisibility. In many tales, Banshees have the ability to become invisible, making her presence known only through her eerie wail. This allows her to be a subtle and often terrifying presence. Ethereal travel. Banshees can move through the physical world without interacting with it physically, passing through walls, appearing and disappearing at will. This is often described alongside her sudden appearances and vanishing, usually into a mist or thin air. Ominous sounds. Besides her wailing, Banshees can create a range of unsettling sounds, such as knocking, weeping, or shrieking. These sounds usually occur in the dead of night and increase the fear factor of her visits. Third omen. Beyond signaling death, some stories suggest that the mere sight or sound of a Banshee can bring bad luck or misfortune, contributing to an atmosphere of doom that lingers over the household she haunts. Weather influence. In some regional variations of Banshee lore, it is believed that she can influence the weather around her, typically casting a pall of fog or mist that adds to the otherworldliness of her appearance. Touch of decay. In darker tales, it is said that where a Banshee has been, plants and natural life wilt or wither, as if her presence brings decay, symbolizing the impending death she foretells. Psychological impact. The Banshee's wail is said to have a profound psychological impact on those who hear it. It can drive listeners to madness or an overwhelming sense of dread, which is sometimes as lethal as any physical manifestation of her power. Immortality. As a spirit, the Banshee is often considered immortal. She is bound to her spectral existence until the release of her curse or the end of her duty to the families she haunts. Curse inducement. In particularly vengeful tales, Banshees can curse individuals or families, either as a continuation of past wrongs or due to new slights. Scientifically, the idea of the Banshee doesn't hold any real weight. It's viewed as a fascinating aspect of cultural folklore rather than a phenomenon to be explained or proven. Experts in psychology might suggest that Banshee encounters could stem from intense communal grief or stress, reflecting shared emotional disturbances through vivid collective imaginations. In the world of popular culture, the Banshee has evolved far beyond her folkloric roots. She now haunts the pages of horror novels and the scenes of scary movies, serving as a chilling harbinger of doom. Her iconic wail has been adapted into various media, from eerie video game characters to dramatic television portrayals. This has made the Banshee a versatile figure in modern entertainment, symbolizing our enduring attraction to the mysteries of death and the supernatural, ensuring her legacy as a timeless emblem of foreboding. I guess we'll never know one way or the other. If you enjoyed this video, then like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.